So Conor Benn separates Chris Algieri from his senses in the 4th round with a cold-blooded one-punch knockout. Brutal stuff indeed. This was an impressive performance, albeit predictable, I want to say. Now, I didn't make a pre-fight video on this fight because I felt that it'd probably end like this. A lot of people whose opinions I certainly respect and I always hear them out, they felt as if Chris Algieri could present some questions and potentially some challenges to Conor Benn. And I can certainly understand the thought process behind that, because on paper, Chris Algieri has been around the block. He's done it. He's fought the likes of Manny Pacquiao, Ruslan Provodnikov and Errol Spence. But since that Errol Spence loss, he hasn't really done anything. He's I think he took a long hiatus, fought Tommy Coyle on the AJ Ruiz undercard 1 back in 2019. Fought, who else? Les Pierre earlier this year, I think. But Les Pierre also lost to Jose Pedraza. Pedraza turned him into a flipping pinata in that fight. He was hitting him upside the head with like 24 punch combinations. That was crazy. So it's not really great form from Chris Algieri going in against a guy who's been active in Conor Benn and is improving too. That makes for a dangerous fighter, someone who's active, and of course on the upwards trajectory in terms of development. But it was the fight that was made, and Chris Algieri was swiftly dealt with. Like the way Conor Benn came out, I think is what's most impressive, because he's a lot more patient now. He doesn't come out swinging, looking for a punch up and a slugfest. He comes out and he's a lot more measured. He's calculated, and he cuts off the ring, uses head movement, tries to feint his opposition, and he kind of reserves his high energy intensity and his bursts of punches and whatnot. He tries to set it up a bit more, pin you up against the ropes or counter you, trying to engage his brain a lot more, which is certainly it's good to see. And that's really what he did. He had Chris Algieri on the back foot, like Chris Algieri fights a lot of his fights, but he had nothing to keep Conor Benn off, nothing to keep him honest. Quite literally, there were a couple of occasions where Chris Algieri would throw a right hand, excuse me, and it would bounce off of the head of Conor Benn, as if someone threw a marshmallow at Conor Benn's head and it just popped off, just bounced off. So Chris Algieri couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag. People knew this, but his power is even less than what people think. So yeah, nothing to keep Conor Benn off, and he just stalked him, just set up some pretty nice punches. However, Conor Benn does have some bad habits. There were times where he'd overextend himself, trying to, I think, compensate or overcompensate for the reach disadvantage. Left himself kind of out in no man's land and wasn't able to really pull himself back. He was getting timed over the jab a couple of times, hit with some left hooks from Algieri. But Algieri, as I say, doesn't have the power to make Conor Benn pay. So these are errors that he's going to have to work on, because if he's in against someone who's a considerable puncher, it could go very wrong. However, Conor Benn, it's early days for him somewhat. He's still developing, and he's young as well. What, 25? I don't even he's young in his career, because what, 25, and he's 20-0. Yeah, 20-0. So he's just had his 20th fight. Definitely going in the right direction, however. But just to go back to describing the fight, he's managed to close the distance on Algieri, had Algieri up against the ropes, and just there's 1-2, and it just sent crashing into the face of Algieri. Algieri rolled on his own ankle, looked rather painful, but just flopped to the canvas and was completely done. Just smashed to bits, quite literally. So good definitive stoppage by Conor Benn. But now it's what's next. And now a lot of people on the back of this performance, and to be honest, for a little while now, they've been saying that Conor Benn could hold his own against like the top 3, top 5 guys in the division. And I strongly disagree. The top guys, who are they? We're talking about Terence Crawford, your Dennis Ugas, Jaron Ennis potentially. I haven't really seen that much of him, but he's certainly an athletic phenomenon, or phenom rather. Virgil Ortiz is an up-and-comer. of course, have Errol Spence. Sean Porter's retired, so he's out of the question. These guys, nah. I think that's way too big a step, because Conor Benn, I think he lacks the wrinkles to his game. I think the IQ maybe isn't there. He's certainly got the athletic qualities. Still require development themselves, but he's a formidable athlete. But the technique's getting better in terms of his punching technique and his biomechanics. Definitely getting better. But I think the IQ, I think he needs to have some more. He needs to have fights where someone's going to challenge him in a boxing sense a bit more. Not so much that he's at risk of losing, though losing isn't necessarily a bad thing all the time, but of course it needs to be incremental. So I think that a reasonable next step would be Adrian Broner potentially, because even though Broner can be a handful on his day, he kind of lacks that discipline and that commitment outside of boxing to the point where he's not as dangerous as he probably would be if he was dedicated. But he's got some decent skills, so I think he'll challenge Conor Benn in the boxing department. But Conor Benn has the commitment and the discipline and the activity to probably outwork Adrian Broner if he kind of gets into a sticky situation. Sergey Lipinets, I think his style would... I think he's tough enough to hang in there with Ben, but I think his style would allow Ben to work on some things while also improving as he goes along in that fight. Or maybe even David Avanesian, because this is someone who's been mentioned alongside Conor Benn for a little while now, and a lot of people see it as if David Avanesian just blows away Conor Benn, as if David Avanesian is some like ultra dangerous guy in the welterweight division. I don't see that. I see that fight as a 50-50, one that Conor Benn could win. I can see Conor Benn winning that. If anything, I'd edge towards him like 55-45. So if that fight happens next, I'm happy. I think that's an entertaining fight, but also a good development fight, because, yeah, David Avanesian is of Russian descent. He's kind of seen as like a domestic rival because I believe he's based in the UK. So, yeah, bring that fight on. So that's the next step of Conor Benn after a chilling knockout, cold-blooded knockout of Chris Algieri. Impressive, but predictable. Be interesting to see who he takes on next. Just to touch on the event, I haven't seen the event in its entirety, but, you know, DAZN is kind of running away with this game changed slogan. What a load of nonsense, in my opinion. I mean, I think most of you guys will probably agree, but they didn't change the game with their commentary, because their commentary's crap. I don't want to sound like a downer, but I'm just giving my opinion. And now this was Conor Benn versus Chris Algieri was a headline event. Really? Is this headline event material? Is this even chief support or co-main material? I don't think so. So, game changed. Like, DAZN, you got to pull your socks up. Hopefully we get some better cards than this. But that's just my opinion. I'm being picky at this point. Let me know what you thought of this performance and what you think Conor Benn should do next, who he should fight next. What's your take on my opinion of this fight? Do you agree, disagree? Do you think I've missed anything out? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, comment, share and subscribe. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video.